Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of Alex Cox's 1984 punk rock sci-fi satirical black comedy, Repo Man.
Yeah, this is a crazy genre bender.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those. It's a all three boxes movie.
Yeah, this actually is a really well loved movie. As I got into the internet, I say I got into the internet. As I dug into the content and whatnot, I found how much this was loved. And it's got some fun taglines and stuff associated with it. Mm-hmm. Repo Man is many things. An alien invasion film, a punk rock musical, a send-up of consumerism. One thing it isn't is boring.
It's true. I saw this movie probably when I was in middle school, and I don't think I definitely didn't understand it, and I probably didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it made a big impression on me. Like, it was something like where like the mood and attitude of the movie has always kind of stuck with me, and I was like, that's a pretty interesting movie.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this came out when we were like little kids, and so I didn't see it fresh. I remember watching it at some point. I actually saw the TV dub where some of the curse words are edited out for like really weird, trippy.
Flip you, melon farmer.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the Flip You Melon Farmer version. And I remember watching it initially because I was and still am a huge fan of Young Guns.
And it's got Emilio.
It's got Emilio. So I was like, oh, it's got Emilio Estevez. I'm watching this.
And this is like his second or third movie.
Yeah, he's such a baby face. Yeah, he looks like a kid, like 20 or less.
It's part of what makes the movie feel like it's a surreal movie, but there's a real groundedness to it, and how young he is part of that. Like, he feels totally believable as a young punk rocker of the era.
Yeah, I think that some of the wardrobe choices weren't super punk, in my opinion, but I do think that he is believable. And this is, you have to kind of suspend your realism at the door. Just don't do it. So another kind of interesting fact about this one was that this was actually pretty darn profitable. It was budgeted at $1.5 million, and it made almost $4 million.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big for a small time movie.
And it has just had this long life as a cult classic film. It has. There's been a couple local like repertory theaters that have done screenings recently, and when you go and look at any like Facebook posts when like the Academy Theater is showing Repo Man, look in the comments, and the comments are just people posting quotes from the movie.
Yeah, it's super popular, and it didn't harm it at all that it has like a super soundtrack. It's got The Plugs, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, Suicidal Tendencies, and Iggy Pop. And Iggy Pop wrote the title theme song for this movie.
Yeah.
The one that rolls during the intro credits. So, I mean, that's like a pretty big, a big deal. It's nice.
That was huge for a lot of those bands who didn't have a lot of reach outside of the LA metro area, being on a popular compilation album like this that went out, into Walmarts across the middle of the country, where people did not know the Circle Jerks and Suicidal.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into this one. I will say that when I started watching it, I watched it dry. So my commentary on it is I was not expecting it to get as weird as it gets.
Oh, really?
So I was a little bit I don't know. I was blindsided a bit. I didn't remember it being like a supernatural thriller.
Yeah. So Lisa and Lisa bought a projector, and this will kind of segue into the what have you been up to?
Okay, yeah. What have you been up to?
Well, for one thing, I've got a digital movie projector now, so I've been watching movies on the back of my garage, like big screen.
Nice. What are you doing for sound out there?
Oh, that is a little bit of an issue. There is speakers on the projector. They're not great, and we have a couple like little Bluetooth little sound bars.
Yeah.
Also not great. So I've got a great big screen, but not a great big sound right now. So I need to rectify that.
Get some of those outdoor Bose speakers and just live out there.
Yeah, I mean, and just really piss off the neighbors.
Oh.
But it's fun. So we watched this movie, even though I owned the Criterion Blu-ray of this. We watched the version that's on Amazon, which is probably what you watched.
Yeah, I think that's what I watched.
And it was nice. It was like watching like a drive-in movie, kind of with that lower quality.
Nice.
The Criterion Blu-ray with the 2K remaster of it is much better. It's like I was like, man, I should have unhooked the Blu-ray player and took it outside.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, normally those remasters they look a lot better than the original VHS rips or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It does not. It looks probably better than it looked in theaters at the time. I would assume.
Yeah.
And then what else? I went to the Freaky But True Peculiarium. Have you heard of this place?
No, but I saw your pictures on Instagram. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a roadside attraction sort of weirdo museum.
Where's that at?
It's in Northwest Portland.
Okay.
In like it used to be like a local neighborhood convenience store, and it's been repurposed into this sort of, sideshow museum thing with cool sculptures.
That's very Portland.
Yeah, totally. And weird movie artifacts.
And it'll be gone in 2 years, so...
It's hanging in there, and it makes a lot of lists of, like, Atlas Obscura has profiled it, and a lot of...
Okay, it's kind of like how the Church of Elvis stayed alive forever. Is it still alive? I don't think so.
No, the Church of Elvis no longer exists, but I think the vending machine might live on somewhere.
Yeah, but that was alive forever in Portland with no business.
And it is somewhere between the Church of Elvis and like Marsh's Free Museum at the coast.
Okay.
Kind of like something like that. But it's pretty fun. So that was something. I saw Shang-Chi.
Oh, nice.
It's a Marvel movie. They're pretty good at doing their damn thing.
3.0.
3.5, yes. Since I have to get off the fence, I probably will go on the 4.0 side, man. But 3.5 is much more honest. It's like Marvel
I haven't seen it, so
both this one and Black Widow are kind of at the end of Marvel that you like.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like this one is very much a kung fu movie.
Oh man, I probably would like that
in the Marvel universe. A lot of homage to like the classic mid-period Jackie Chan when he was really at his prime, and also like the House of Flying Daggers, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah, so you'll like it. Disney in general makes middle-of-the-road
acceptable movies.
Yeah, it's like, well, that was a movie. It did its damn thing for 2 hours. What about you? What have you been up to?
I've been doing some super mundane stuff, like I'm going to the dentist and getting fitted for Invisalign and stuff like that.
Are your teeth not straight?
They're mediocre, but I need to fix this grill. So I'm working on that, doing disc golf, etc. The only thing of interest that I went to that's new was I went to a new I don't know, place to eat and drink beer.
We call them restaurants.
Yeah, I don't know. They call it a beer lodge.
A beer lodge.
Yeah,
ooh, that is better.
It's called the 5440 Beer Lodge, and it's in Stevenson, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Up in the gorge, and I was up there playing a disc golf course nearby, and so we went to the beer lodge. And it's interesting because I know what to expect from 5440, having gone there a lot of times. But so they're serving all the same beers. They're obviously they're just, bringing kegs from the 5440 brewery. Okay. But the food is interesting because it's in the former home of, I believe it was called Alex's Pizza, which was a hometown kind of pizza place. Yeah. That the guy evidently retired and he sold the business off, ovens and all, the whole deal, to the 5440 people. Mm-hmm. And he taught them all his recipes and how to make the pizza and all of that, which intrigued me. And I learned that from reading an interview on like some obscure little like Clark County Today or something. It was like free newspapers or something. I read it online through my Google aggregator. And so anyway, I like 5440 beer. I like pizza.
Yeah.
And they also they run a mean sandwich business there too.
Ooh,
so yeah, Carrie was into that.
Like Italian style hero sandwiches, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you can get a full on meatball sandwich or whatever, a bunch of options. And so I really liked it. The pizza was great. The beer was a known quantity, good, and it had that 5440 Northwest rustic aesthetic. So it was overall it was a pleasing experience.
So they use that word lodge. So I assume that evokes the Skamania Lodge, which is also nearby there. How close are they to each other?
Oh, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I thought when I went there that I was going to be going to like a bigger place, like a lodge, like an Edelweiss or some big place.
Like some sort of beer hall.
Not really. It's a smallish place that is it's an old building that's like on the main drag in Stevenson.
Okay.
But they did it up their style. They have like wood paneling all over the wall. They have like those raw cut timber tables and stuff like that. So they made it rustic, but it's still in kind of a smallish place that was an old pizza place that they've spruced up and made really nice.
Well, that's cool.
So like I liked it. I thought it was cool. I will definitely go back next time I'm in Stevenson. So I was pretty stoked about that. So what's our podcast fuel for today?
Our podcast fuel is from Level Beer. We're in my favorite beer season right now because there's two things that overlap with each other. Fresh hop season and Oktoberfest season.
The fall is really the best season of the year. It's my favorite time.
And in September, you get this nice mix of like you have summer days and you have fall days both. And
you can have them on the same day.
Sometimes. That happened to me yesterday, and I regretted wearing pants. I was like, I started out in jeans, and I was like, oh, this turned into a shorts day. But
you need those pants you can unzip.
The zip the legs off of them. Yeah, that would be very practical. So anyways, kind of to theme this to the movie, American Lagers, 4 of the characters in the movie are named after American lagers. And it's just, you always see the generic beer cans. So I thought an American lager was in keeping with the movie. Plus it's fresh hop, which I buy anything that says fresh hop on it.
Okay.
It's a 4.5 ABV, 0 IBUs listed, but that can't possibly be true because they put hundreds of pounds of the finest fresh picked Willamette Valley hops into this lager.
Super good. I mean, it says the little tagline, it says a crispy brew. And yeah, I mean, it's a lager, but you can taste the hops in there. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, and so it tastes like a good version of one of those, lawn mowing beers like Ollie or Miller or Bud, but with hundreds of pounds of Willamette Valley hops in it. So delicious. Love it.
I think it's good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will hop into Repo Man.
All right, welcome back, divers. Let's get into Repo Man.
I love how this movie opens out. Aside from the fact that there's a full-on credits sequence with music and all of that, but I guess I said I griped about that last time we watched a 30-year-old movie or whatever.
It had a long. You know what I like about this title sequence? Well, first off, Michael Nesmith is presenting, right? So do you know who that is from the Monkees?
Yeah, I do.
Michael, he's the cool guy from the Monkees. Like, he's the one with the sideburns and the beanie hat. And of the 4 Monkees, he's the real artist.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's
pretty cool that he produced this movie.
And it kind of opens on this really retro computerized map. It's like a green screen map.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like Fallout on your Pip-Boy.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Which is just trying to emulate the 80s era maps. And so it's this intro credits is a dated idea, but I really liked the Iggy Pop song and these retro maps. So I guess it was all right.
Yeah, and it's tracking along historic Route 66, and we're going out from LA to Arizona. And by the time we get there, the movie, we get to the meat of the film. The movie opens out there in Arizona.
And there's a dusty old highway, and there's this guy driving, and there's like a motorcycle cop, and then there's this guy driving this old Chevy Malibu.
Right.
And the cop pulls the Malibu over.
Yeah, because this is a J. Frank Parnell, and he's a sketchy looking character for sure.
Yeah.
It's not surprised he gets hassled by the cops. He pulls over the Malibu, and regrettably for himself, he asks to see what's inside the trunk. And he goes back, opens the trunk, and gets vaporized in a pretty cool cutting edge graphic.
Yeah, so it's like in the beginning watching this movie, I'm like, I don't know what I'm expecting, but it certainly wasn't a cop getting vaporized and the boots being left behind.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the trunk of this car is the MacGuffin of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how often people get interested in a trunk. Like every time there's cops nearby, they're like, "What's in the trunk?" Yeah. And it's like, do you not know what a warrant is? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think, J. Frank Parnell would probably be within his rights to deny the cop to look in the trunk, but he wants the cop to get vaporized so he can just get on the road.
Yeah, he's like, oh, how convenient.
He's constantly wanting to show people what's in this trunk.
Yeah. And so basically he vaporizes the cop and then just drives away and leaves the boots and the motorcycle behind.
Yeah, and we see it kind of lingers on that New Mexico license plate, which is one of many allusions they make to like Area 51, which is one of the places he may be coming from.
Yeah, and so then it kind of cuts to a scene with some retail workers. It's like this young kid and his buddy, and one's kind of like a nerd-looking guy, and one's kind of a baby-faced, handsome guy. Our hero, Otto, played by Emilio Estevez.
And the other one is Kevin, played by Xander Schloss, who, in the audio commentary and just about anything you look at, everyone is convinced is the inspiration for Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is he really just kind of a weirdo?
I don't know. I mean, no, he's, the character Kevin is the inspiration.
Oh,
like
okay.
with the curly hair and the big glasses.
Yeah.
He said that Xander Schloss said that it was hard to watch Napoleon Dynamite because he felt like he was looking at himself through the whole thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get confirmation on that, but there is a resemblance.
Yeah, for sure. And basically, like, there's this weird, awkward interaction where Kevin's like singing and being all annoying, and Otto's just is like, "Shut up," like. And then the manager shows up with the security guard, and they start hassling the guys.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I've worked retail. I've been hassled by terrible managers. I know this. I know this story. But the thing that really gets me is when like Otto ends up basically he like pushes the manager. The security guy literally pulls a gun on him and like draws down on him.
Oh yeah, it's insanity. You
would that even happen in the real world?
Hopefully not, but this is like in a heightened reality.
Yeah, like everything is super extra.
And you know how like some security guards at retail, Dave and I both had a lot of retail experience.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are very chill people who are just collecting a paycheck, and a lot of them are sort of wannabe law enforcement, but didn't quite pass the mental exam. And I think this guy qualifies as that kind. Like, he would be a cop, but he's too unhinged.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of a lot of the characters we had run into through the years in customer service, but honestly, none of the security guys we ever worked around had guns.
No, because you have to be insane to let a security guard carry a gun.
Yeah, it's just not worth it.
That's a lawsuit waiting to happen because they're going to shoot somebody. It's just bound to happen. I have to say, I was shocked how much I immediately related to Otto, because I was like, oh, I've been here, and there's been a few supervisors I treated with the similar disdain that he shows Mr. Humphreys there. And I'm there for it.
Yeah, I immediately identified with Otto. I was like, first of all, fuck you, Kevin. You're annoying as shit. I would hate to work with you.
Flip you.
Flip you, Kevin. You're annoying. And then the manager, that guy was terrible. I've had managers I hated. And then security guy, yeah. So I was with Otto, and then it cuts to a punk rock party with Otto and his friends. Although Otto kind of looks out of place. He does not seem like he gels with their looks.
You think so? I think he's very in with that LA hardcore of the time, that Black Flag scene.
With the dangly cross earring.
The dangly cross earring, the buzz cut, the flannel shirt tied around his waist. Like, he's very much...
Is that kind of a West Coast hardcore vibe?
Yeah, totally. And I love his, like, hand-drawn punk rock jacket. Like,
he's got, like, drawn on the back.
Very DIY, very cool. It's a little weird to just be having a mosh pit without a band playing, just listening to the circle jerks. Yeah. But it's a very real mosh pit. Like, it's not like a cartoon mosh pit. That's really how people mosh.
Yeah, I wonder if some of those people were extras just taken from concerts or whatever that they recruited in.
Same when we used to get recruited to be extras. Yeah, totally.
So he basically it cuts to this weird bedroom scene where he's like laying in the bed and there's Suicidal Tendencies is playing.
Right.
And it's just like awkward. And I gotta say, all the way up until this point, the acting is really it's super mediocre. It's like nothing sounds natural from any of them.
It's very amateurish.
It's very amateurish, or even maybe if we want to give them some sort of credit, like it's intentionally stylized a la Kevin Smith or something like that.
Yeah, I think more it's other than Emilio Estevez, we haven't seen a professional actor yet.
Yeah.
It's very much people that we know, sort of people that we can get for cheap.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're just working for the minimum SAG whatever. So they're in this bedroom and he's like talking to this girl and he gets up to leave.
She sends him to go get a beer. And then when he comes back, she's hooking up with his buddy Duke, who's fresh out of juvie.
Yeah, like that fast. Like he leaves the room just enough to go get a beer out of the kitchen, comes back and his buddy is in his bed naked with his girl, also naked.
Otto...
Was he hiding in the closet? Where did Duke come from?
I don't think so. Maybe. But I do think, even though we relate to Otto, he kind of had it coming. Otto he doesn't have a great record in this movie of how he treats girls.
Oh, no. Otto is bad to the ladies. He is a jerk.
And so it's like they're in there and he says, "Excuse me while I fold my pants." and he folds up his pants and then lays back and puts his hand behind his head and says, "All right, you can start." And it's like, oh my God, no, Otto, come on, you have to put a little more effort in than this.
But at least his pants won't get wrinkled.
Yeah, his priorities are the chinos.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a weird thing, and so he basically he leaves and he's like a total sad sack. And he's just wandering the town, drinking beer, ranting and raving.
Yeah, he does this a cappella Black Flag TV party out by the train tracks while he's feeling sad. And it's very authentic teenage boy, though. Like
it is.
He's like, only Black Flag can speak for my feelings.
And it's kind of got a cool... junkyard dystopian feel. Like they really chose good sets around LA to film.
Yeah, LA is like a character in this movie. You really feel the city and not the shiny part of LA, like the real gritty part of LA. Well, I mean,
there aren't shiny parts of LA anymore.
That's the mystery. The people that don't go to LA don't know. It's all of it looks like this.
Yeah, and so like he's like walking by this junkyard thing and this dude like drives by him, slow rolls him and is like, "Hey, I need you to drive that car for me. I can't leave it in this neighborhood."
Yeah, I don't want to leave my old lady's car in this bad area.
And he like gives him some line like his old lady needs to take her to the hospital or some nonsense. None of it adds up.
Yeah. But he offers him $25 to drive this car out of the bad area. And that's enough money that a kid that just triumphantly walked out of his grocery store job, $25 in 1984, gets his attention.
Now, what is $25 in 1984? Like maybe $100 today?
Yeah, probably. That's a kind of my. I think that about equates. If the minimum wage was like $3 then, and now it's over 10.
Yeah.
So something like that.
So basically he like follows the dude, Otto's driving the car, and they follows him to this yard and goes inside, and it turns out it's a repo agency, and the dude just basically duped him into helping him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you're all Repo Man," like talking down to him, like, "Ugh." And they like give him a beer, and he just pours it out on the ground in their office.
Yeah,
very punk rock.
It's another time what I just love Otto, because he's just like, he's so disdainful of these adults and their predatory vocation, and he dumps a beer out and then leans back and folds his arms like, what are one of you old fucks gonna do about it? and they all like, they're like, all right, I love this kid.
Yeah, like, they immediately love him just because he's all piss and vinegar.
Yeah, they're like, this is what we were like before the world broke us.
And they offer him a job, and he's like, no, fuck you. And he leaves.
But he does get the check from Marlene before he goes.
Yeah,
she's
for
like,
sure.
He's like, I'm not going to be no repo man. And she goes, you already are. And hands him a check. And so, yeah, he leaves. And then we cut back to Arizona, and the feds, they call them the CIA, but I don't feel like the CIA would be involved in this stuff. I think it'd be FBI.
Yeah, I don't even know what these guys were, because they were doing almost nothing governmental seeming. They really just seem like a bunch of like weird conspiracy nut jobs or something.
They're much more like Men in Black than they are any actual alphabet agency. Yeah,
and the lady who's like the lead investigator, she's dressed all crazy weird, and she's got like this weird purple purple hat and like.
And a robot hand.
Like a cyberware. Yeah. And they have like this crazy surveillance van or whatever. So yeah, it's just odd.
One of the local Arizona cops is like, he wants to know what did this, and she goes, it happens sometimes. People just explode. Natural causes. And gets in the van and shuts the door and just like stonewalls him.
Yeah, basically fuck you. And I was noticing, like, as they were kind of panning through here, and there's some B-roll shots or whatever here and there, and I really like how there's a lot of older vehicles in here. Yeah. So even though the movie is set in the 80s, there's a lot of really vintage cars. I like it. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, just think about when you look out on the road, you don't see a ton of 2021 vehicles. You get a whole melange of different years.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool. There's a lot of cool cars in this movie, honestly, that probably weren't cool then, but have become classic cars.
Yeah, like that Malibu. It's pretty cool, but I bet it was pretty basic back then.
Yeah. And we cut back to Otto and Kevin. They're job hunting.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just had to remark on it, how much Emilio Estevez looks like his dad. There's just certain times when he looks just like Martin Sheen, like certain faces he makes and stuff. And then he changes his expression and it kind of goes away. But it's just like something happened there where I was like, oh man, that looks like Martin Sheen sitting there reading the want ads.
Yeah, for sure. And they have these, this is one of those scenes that it really felt like this scene, and there's a lot of other little micro scenes that don't actually contribute to the pace of the movie. It doesn't really contribute to the narrative. They were just they were in there and they didn't get cut. Yeah. But it very well could have been cut and nothing would have changed about the whole movie.
That's probably true. Yeah, you could cut this out. And then Otto and Kevin, they have like a little fight, and it prompts Otto to get on the bus out to the burbs to his folks' house. Yeah. And really nothing gets advanced plot-wise there too, other than the fact, the sort of suburban dystopia that he comes from.
Yeah, well, and when he goes and
scenery.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of scenery here, and then when he goes in and visits his parents, they seem like burned out hippies or something.
Yeah, that's totally. I have ex-hippies hooked on a televangelist,
and they donated all of their money to him, And Otto is basically just like, what the fuck? And he's eating food directly out of the can, and the food in the can says food right across it. Just like all the beer cans all said beer.
Put it on a plate. You'll enjoy it more.
Yeah, his mom just doesn't take her eyes off the televangelist the whole time.
Yeah, they're sending Bibles to El Salvador, which I always think missionary work to Latin America.
Where they're like way more Christian than America.
Yeah, that is always hilarious. It's like, oh, they've got plenty of Bibles, hun.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
But
they
so
got the Jesus.
Yeah, it's all, the Spaniards already beat you there. But the generic food products we should label. So some of these are real products that came from Ralph's grocery store.
Beer brand beer was a thing you could buy.
That was a real thing. But food brand food is not.
Yeah.
So some of these things like Tastios cereal is a real thing that was sold in grocery stores.
Yeah.
And some of them like the canned peaches, blah, blah, blah. But food, drink, and just some of these other things are just there for effect. And I love it. It has a vibe.
It adds to the kind of dystopian feel that this place is like a strange, surreal thing. Like it's kind of like a little Blade Runner-ish. Like
it is sort of like proto cyberpunk, like because there's not much cyber happening.
Well, there was already a cyber hand.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we're just getting the first inklings of cyberpunk. It's a Blade Runner prequel.
A way prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. And basically this whole scene, this whole suburban thing where his parents are worshiping the TV and following the televangelist, who, by the way, I think televangelists are just leeches. They're horrible.
Oh yeah.
But this whole thing serves as an impetus for Otto to just be hopeless enough that he has to accept the only job offer he's got, the Repo Man.
Yeah, and then we get into like this really fun montage of Otto and Bud, who's played by the late Harry Dean Stanton, who's does most of the heavy lifting in this movie, acting wise. And Bud just like dropping repo wisdom on Otto.
Yeah, I really like this whole montage with Bud and Otto.
Yeah, and I wrote down his whole repo code. I never broke into a car. I never hotwired a car, kid. I never broke into a trunk. I shall not cause harm to any vehicle nor the personal contents thereof, nor through inaction let the vehicle or the personal contents come to harm. That's what I call the repo code, kid.
Dang. Because I mean, we know Otto does not follow the repo code.
Oh, no. But, we talked about it earlier, this, our background working retail. I've worked with so many buds in my lifetime and had these conversations of, generally it's this situation where you have the teenage guy who kind of needs a role model in their life, and then the guy that's fucked up every relationship he ever had, who sees the surrogate son that he can pass wisdom on to. And those two people, you find each other, and then you have a lot of surreal conversations while they impart their really bad wisdom on you.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a thing, like, I don't even remember the exact quote, but the concept was from a Henry Rollins spoken word, where he talks about how as dudes get older, they start buying into their own bullshit more and more. And it becomes like this dogmatic fixture in their life, and they live by these self-invented bullshit codes.
Yeah.
And that's just Henry Rollins calling out dudes like Bud.
Oh, totally. And so Alex Cox actually spent some time doing ride-alongs with a real Repo Man, and a lot of the Bud dialogue and also the Lights dialogue comes from real quotes from the real Repo Man, like the sort of stuff that he was telling him while they drove around.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's totally bonkers. In the theatrical cut, they do lines of coke.
Yeah, I saw that for sure. And they called it speed, though.
Yeah, he says, that's why every Repo Man I know does speed.
And it's just coke.
Yeah. And then in the TV version, there's a scene where Bud smashes a payphone with a sledgehammer in place of the coke scene.
Huh. That's random.
Yeah, totally random, but it's a fun scene.
And they just like there's just like randomly they pass a van with people in full hazmat suits, and no one says anything. Like, okay, yeah, just random hazmat suits, no biggie.
Yeah, because that's the path of radioactive destruction that the Malibu is leaving as it comes through town. And they go to a liquor store to get a drink, and it's like a 6-pack of cans that just say drink on them.
Yeah.
And there's a reoccurring theme of every time they stop at a liquor store, it's either about to be robbed or has just been robbed by Duke, Debbie, and another local punk named Archie. Mm-hmm. And there's this parallel crime spree B plot that's going on alongside.
Yeah, I think the punk rock crime spree, it turns out to be actually fairly entertaining, and it does tie in kind of, but I was wondering as we're watching this like go through, the plot is not extremely it's not developing quickly.
No.
And there's not a ton of nuance. There's a lot of side character development with like Otto, and doing like there are entire scenes where they just do a repo, and it has nothing to do with anything. It's just a repo.
The it's not a long movie, right? Like it's like 90 minutes, and it's not in a hurry to get anywhere.
Yeah, it does not go a lot of anywhere. It's just a lot of these weird little vignettes strung together.
Yeah, and I want to highlight Duke, played by Dick Rude, who is sort of involved in the creation of this movie and was under the impression up until the point they cast Emilio Estevez that he was going to be playing the Otto role.
Oh, okay.
And the studio basically wasn't going to pony up the money without a couple people that they knew were real actors.
Yeah, without a star or something.
Yeah, so Dick Rude got pushed aside, and Cy Richardson, who plays Light, would have been in the Bud role, and he got made more of a ancillary Repo character.
Yeah, I really like the Light character because he's like the hardcore Repo Man. Yeah. He like pulls guns on people, and he's just nuts.
Yeah. Oh, I love Light. And even while they were making the movie, Alex Cox wanted to fire Harry Dean Stanton and just sort of bump up Light to be the partner, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. So like, there's this weird scene where they drive into the LA River, and it's just it's a concrete thing, and like they get into like an argument with these two dudes who turn out they're the Rodriguez brothers, and they're like Bud's rivals.
Yeah. So did you ever figure out what the Rodriguez brothers do? Because they never make it clear in the movie, and I think I just finally got it recently.
I mean, I thought they were Repo Men because they at some point they took the Malibu.
Right.
We'll get there, but
yeah, and that's not what they're scammers.
Okay.
So because Bud says something about how they have 30 cars in the field, that is, they're in possession of 30 cars that are supposed to be repossessed.
Oh, okay.
So they basically scam dealerships into giving them car loans, and then they keep the cars and don't pay on them.
Okay.
So, but it is not clear at all in the movie. So it took me a long time to kind of get what they do.
Yeah, it was just totally weird, and I mean, yeah, I don't get it. And at some point, someone says like, they ain't scumbags, they're car thieves like us.
Yeah, that's what Light says.
And so Light is basically saying that they're car thieves like us, but they don't actually tell us explicitly like their game. Are they just blatantly car thieves, or are they? I don't know.
No, they have this whole scam where they buy a junker car and pay it off quickly. This is all like from ancillary material. They pay it off quickly, established credit, and then get more expensive cars on credit, and then don't make the payments.
Gotcha.
And then this car that Bud is always trying to repossess, this what is it?
It's like the red Cadillac, right?
No, the Cadillac is the one that's coming up. That's not the one that the Rodriguez brothers are driving. Anyways, whatever. It's the red car is Bud's white whale. Like, he wants to repo it from them and can't ever find them not driving it.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, yes, we're already on to the next scene where now Otto's riding with Light, and they're gonna pull a stunt where he throws a dead rat into this lady's car to get her to run away, and she just maces him, and Light drives off.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Like the dude, he tries to scare her away, and she just maces him, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's the right response.
Yeah, that lady had her head on right. Like,
And I mean, once again, this scene adds nothing to the plot. It's just hijinks.
yeah, just atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's about because it's the life of a Repo Man is always intense, and we have to establish that.
Yeah, and then they start going after a rich guy's car, the red Cadillac, and the quote is funny. He says millionaires never pay their bills, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's like Trump, right?
Yeah. Oh, and this guy is. They do such a good job of establishing what kind of scumbag he is.
Yeah.
Because he's driving a Cadillac that he's not making his payments on. He's wearing like a tracksuit, half unzipped, arguing with kids at the laundromat about why he should be able to use the good washer that's at the front window.
Yeah.
And he's got a gun holster on his tracksuit with no gun in it.
Yeah, it was weird because they did mention before that he was dangerous because he has a pistol license.
Yeah, and Otto runs up and he rips the Cadillac from him, and the kids that he was hassling in the laundromat dump all his laundry out in the street.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was fun just to see this jackass millionaire get his, and then like Otto is driving the Cadillac like a big shot.
Yeah,
and he starts like catcalling this lady who's on the road, like a pretty lady or whatever, asking her if she wants a ride, etc. And then eventually she just gets in the car. She acquiesces. So that's not realistic to today. That wouldn't happen.
Well, she doesn't get in the car until he runs into some trash cans and gets in an argument with an old British lady.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, this old British lady is. This scene is extra and not needed, and they're really overplaying this.
Yeah, it feels real though. Like his stupid game, like his bad game with girls. That the teenage girl, like punk rock chick, is charmed by his bad game because girls also don't have great bullshit senses developed yet at this age, and she gets in the car with him and she is like a UFO conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, and it's like she gets in, so I'm thinking, oh, she has really terrible judgment. And then she gets in the car and she starts talking about how there's like dead aliens in this car and how she's part of a secret network. And I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, she definitely doesn't have a good
good judgment.
Good judgment, and she's not like I don't know. She's not a person who is smart enough that you would think, UFO network is bullshit. And she has him take her to a place called the United Fruitcake Outlet, which of course stands for UFO.
Yeah, I didn't get that till the second viewing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was. I just thought it was a funny place to work the first time, and then like when I rewatched it on the Blu-ray, maybe it was the higher resolution. It clicked for me. I was like, oh, that spells UFO.
and he's basically, when he's dropping her off, he's like asking her if she wants to like meet up again. She's not immediately positive, and then his immediate response is like, girls pay to go out with me. And I was just like, what? Is that something you say? Like,
I'll just make a confession. At that age, I've said embarrassingly close things to that. So when he said that girls pay to go out with me, I was like, oh, cringe, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was so bad. And the thing is that it worked.
Yep, that's the thing. You get rewarded for your bad behavior when you're a teenage boy.
Yeah, she ends up agreeing to see him again, and or she jumps in the car, right? Like,
yeah, they have. I think to me it felt like a Clockwork Orange homage because it speeds up and it's playing kind of like fast music while they're hooking up in the car, and I thought it was homaging that scene from Clockwork, but I could be reading too much there, but that's what I got.
Yeah, and so it's at this point that Otto they get noticed that there's a $20,000 repo posted on this Malibu.
Yeah, which is an insane amount. Where a normal repo is
like $100.
Yeah, $100 or $200. And she had told him when she was explaining her conspiracy about someone in her network has stolen these alien bodies from Area 51. And he's driving this Malibu. So it kind of clicks with Otto. This is the Malibu that girl was talking about.
He's like, oh man, I could get this money. And so then there's like another repo scene that adds nothing to the movie except for an annoying car alarm on the Camaro that just won't stop going off.
Yeah, but this is where Light does all his good repo wisdom is in this scene. You can tell Alex Cox just loves listening to this guy talk because he already has the mentor guy, but he likes this mentor guy more.
Yeah, for sure. So, it was weird that there's like good cop, bad cop, and that's what the two repo men are.
Except for they're both bad.
they're just it's basically bad cop, worse cop.
Yeah. Yeah, and Light had a good quote. He says, I walk into someone's place of work, they're shit scared. They know I'm not a cop. They think I'm coming to kill them, and I would. I'll kill anyone that crosses me.
I watched that and I was like, oh my God, I'll kill anyone that crosses me. Really? But yeah, it was funny. It's just like an attitude thing. I thought that was cool. And at some point they make fun of Scientology. They're like, pull out a book. They're like, oh, it's diuretics. Check this out.
Yes, I love diuretics, the science of mind over mind. Oh man, that's so good. Yes, obviously.
I'm surprised they didn't get in trouble with Scientology back in the day.
I mean, probably they did. I'm sure the Scientologists don't like this movie. Has Emilio Estevez ever been in a movie with Tom Cruise? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I guess not. It's true.
So the Dianetics book is called the Modern Science of Mental Health. I like the science of mind over mind.
Yeah, diuretics, the science of mind over mind, is so much better. And so like they go back and there's a crazy burn barrel guy. Like I don't even remember his name.
That's Miller, played by Tracy Walter.
And that dude is just nuts. And he just says crazy things, but they make you think. And there's like a nugget of truth in them.
Yeah.
He's like this weird Malkavian dude who's just got these just odd points of view.
Yeah, he's like,
they just cut to him.
There ain't no difference in a flying saucer and a time machine. And Otto he goes, you eat a lot of acid, Miller, back in the hippie days.
Yeah, and that guy's just weird. And so I'm just like, I have a little check-in here on my notes because I do them chronologically. I'm like, at this point in the movie, I just want it to move forward. I'm just like,
something
okay,
to happen.
Nothing is happening. They're going around. They've set the stage. There's aliens in a car. There's a network of weird, crazy people who are smuggling the aliens. There's a network of weird Men in Black type people, and there's a bunch of repos happening.
Yeah.
Several criminal elements we've been introduced to, the Rodriguez brothers, the punk rockers. So it's the stage is set. Now do something.
Yeah, I think we literally at this point all the chess pieces are on the board.
Yeah, it took them a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so this is when where are we at? Oh, yeah. This is when we start getting some more dots connected because Bud and Otto go at night to where the Rodriguez brothers live, and they're trying to find out he's trying to turn one of the brothers against the other one, and he's trying to find out where the red Ford Falcon is. I finally got to where that was in my notes. And the weird thing is Marlene is at the Rodriguez brothers' house, and she's dressed like a Sandinista. She's got like green fatigues and a beret on, and she's trying to get the Rodriguez brothers to go after the Malibu.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Marlene ends up playing a weirder role even later in the movie. Like Marlene's the character grows as the movie gets further. She's not just a secretary at the Helping Hands repo agency.
Yeah, which I think in a weird way is foreshadowed by she's the only person that's not named after a beer there. That tells you she's not one of them. Of Bud, Miller, Light, and Ollie and Marlene. Marlene doesn't fit, so that's my assessment of it anyway.
Yeah, and so basically like they're like they checks in with the crazy guy in the Malibu, how he's driving into LA.
Yeah.
And he's kind of fucked up. Like he doesn't look so good. He looks really unhealthy.
Yeah, he's not doing good.
And then the surveillance van that's trying to find them, it's just kind of like it montages a little bit. Like it goes from place to place.
Yeah, because Otto calls Layla to tell her he's got a line of info on the Malibu, although he's still just thinking about getting laid at this point.
Yeah.
And the feds are tapping her phone, and so that's when Otto ends up on their radar. So he goes to the United Fruitcake organization or whatever they're called to go tell her about the UFO, and just immediately starts taking off his pants.
Yeah, he's pretty much like, okay, let's do this, like right here in your place of employment.
And this is she slaps him twice, and that was improvised.
Nice.
So he did not know that was coming, and so his reaction is authentic there.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he looks totally shocked when she hauls off and whacks him, and it's great.
Yeah, he just looks at her like, what the actual fuck are you doing? And yeah, I mean, he's a total asshole. And then it kind of goes back to the guy at the Malibu stops at a gas station, and Kevin is working there.
Yeah. Kevin's always out there hustling. He's on his grind.
Kevin pops up a lot, and he goes and he's gonna check the trunk for him. When did you ever have your trunk serviced?
That was weird because he's hustling for tips, right? To vacuum out the car.
Yeah.
I don't, even when I've had my car vacuumed, I don't think I've ever had the trunk vacuumed.
Yeah, it's weird. And so at this point, the Rodriguez brothers intervene here and they steal the Malibu.
Yep. And Alex Cox, the director, he's one of the lazy gas station attendants, the ones that aren't working, and Kevin's kind of admonishing.
Oh, okay.
So a little cameo from the director there. Cut over to Otto. He's trying to repo an older lady's car, and America's first ska band shows up inexplicably. The Untouchables roll up on Vespas.
Yeah, and this scene seemed really superfluous. I mean...
Oh, completely.
It was just completely pointless.
I think this was just... we got this whole band, and we need to do a scene with them. And so it really does not advance the plot at all, other than Otto has to show up beat up later. So it's the reason he gets beat up, because the Untouchables take issue with him trying to repo their grandma's car.
Yeah, he's trying to repo the car, and they beat him up. I mean, it's just a quick scene, and then basically it cuts back to the Rodriguez brothers. They stop to get a drink because it's so hot in that car. They're just overheating, and when they're going to get a drink, the punkers steal the car. And basically their entrance is they're just done with a heist of drugs from like a pharmacy or something, and they're running down the street, and they see this like Malibu sitting there, and they're like, oh, let's steal this car, and they jump in, steal it, and drive away.
It's like got the keys in it, it's running, it's just too easy to not steal it. They're really living La Vida Loca right now.
Yeah,
like,
they're totally opportunists, do whatever.
Yeah, and at this point, what do you feel like is in the trunk of the car? Are you on board with it is aliens? Is it a neutron bomb? What is in the trunk of the car?
I mean, I guess I didn't even really, because I just went to the storyteller part of my mind where I just think this is a MacGuffin.
It's just a MacGuffin.
It doesn't matter what it is.
It's a trunk full of MacGuffin.
It's just a plot device. It's nothing.
So that probably ends up being the most accurate description of what's in the car.
Yeah. And then it cuts back to Otto, who's repoing this blue Mustang, and he does it with a gum wrapper.
Yeah,
and
how does that work?
I don't even know.
That one really intrigued me. He's going to do something in the ignition with a gum wrapper, and I was like, does that work? I don't understand this one.
And then someone shoots at him from inside, and then light jumps out and just starts opening fire big time.
Oh yeah, Light's too cool. He's like, "You're still in the job, white boy. Get in the car."
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Improvised. That's an improvised line. They said you have to yell something at him, and that's what he came up with, and that's perfect.
It was nice. And then, of course, immediately after the gunfire, there's sirens.
Yeah.
How fast do you think the cops in LA actually respond to gunfire?
In real life?
Yeah.
I assume they're like the cops in Portland, and they don't
just
at all.
don't. Yeah. I was just thinking to myself, like, not 15 seconds went by before there were sirens.
It could have been unrelated sirens.
That's
honestly.
true. Yeah. So I was just thinking that, that was obviously fictional because that would never happen. And then they kind of cut back to Layla, sorry. And she's dressed like super weird. Like the outfits she chooses, it's just weird.
She's just a weird girl. Like IRL, she's a weird girl. What's that actress? That's Olivia Barash. She's just a real scene kid from the era, and then she ended up being a character actress.
Huh. Yeah, and so basically, like, her and the old guy have a run-in with the government-looking guys, and the government people, the CIA, whatever they are, they kidnap her and they bring her in.
Yeah,
and they arrest. If they are really government, they arrest her. I don't think they are, so I call it a kidnapping.
It's definitely an abduction, and they attempt to murder Parnell too. He's in a phone booth, and they just sideswipe it with their van, and he just barely jumps out before they kill him. Although the radiation is going to get him soon. So,
he's done for. And then they like have the lady, the weird dressed cyber hand lady, and she's like tuning her hand with a screwdriver. She's like working on her cyber limb.
Up until the point that she starts working on it with the screwdriver, I just thought it was a Michael Jackson glove.
Okay.
I was like, why does she wear a sequin glove like Michael Jackson? And then she's like tightening the joint on her finger or something. I was like, it's a prosthetic, I guess.
She's got a cyber hand. It's pretty cool. And then it goes to a Repo Man morning drinking party with the Helping Hands guys around the burn barrel.
Well, they're giving Miller a haircut, which is like they're drinking whiskey and beer brand beer, and they're cutting Miller's hair over the burn barrel, and they're ripped already, like first thing in the morning. And they see Otto with his black eye, which obviously Light has already seen it and Miller has already seen it.
Yeah.
But it turns into a whole thing because a Repo Man has been assaulted in the line of duty, and they go out to get vigilante justice.
And they have this weird conversation about John Wayne's sexuality. Mm-hmm. And they're all like manhandling Otto and kind of treating him like shit.
Yeah. And it's so... I'll do the dialogue from the TV version. Miller goes, "John Wayne's a freak," and everyone is like, "No, he's not." And they get all so upset. He's like, "It's true, you boys. I installed two-way mirrors in his house, and he opened the door in a dress." So this is a story that was told to Alex Cox by someone who claimed that had happened. And they're using it here. I don't know.
Well, and the other guys are like, yeah, it's no big deal. Sometimes a fellow wants to wear a dress. And...
What they say, lots of guys like to watch their buddies fuck.
And it's like, what?
And the cop that's always hanging out there, Pletcher, whatever. He's like, I know I do. Like, that's the sort of thing. Every once in a while, someone will say something to you in a way that they're like, this is common knowledge and everyone's into this. And you go, hold on. Wait, all you guys feel this way?
And it's just totally weird.
Yeah. Like not all of them, but at least two of them are completely on board with two-way mirrors and watching their buddies fuck. And I was like, I'd feel weird about that. If I was the buddy or if I was on the other side of the mirror. Either one of those is weird.
You think the buddy on the other side of the mirror knows?
Maybe. It's only ethical if they do. Affirmative consent.
Then why the mirror?
Oh, you're right. It might just be part of the kink.
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't want to shame other people for their kinks. Just as long as everyone's on board, you can't do this surreptitiously.
Yeah, that's peeping. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so and then Layla calls Otto and basically lures him in to come and talk to the weird lady with the cyber hand, and like. Basically just, I don't know, she was afraid for her life and she's willing to sacrifice Otto too or whatever.
Yeah, she goes over to the enemy without much, once she kind of figures out this is the best way to get to the aliens, she's sort of on board with it and she ropes Otto in. And she has them meet up at this, it was a real bar called The Cave. And the Circle Jerks are in there playing, and they're doing an acoustic version of When the Shit Hits the Fan. And Otto's not impressed. He goes, I can't believe I used to like these guys.
Yeah, I didn't like that version of that song. I just thought it sounded like crap.
It's weird. That's the only recording of that lineup of the band with Chuck Biscuits in it, though.
Huh. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Just a little fun fact about Circle Jerks there.
Yeah, if you like Chuck Biscuits. Yeah, and so basically, like, the punks come into the club and they just randomly hand a pump shotgun to the doorman. Like, oh, I guess this is the way people used to be in clubs. No big deal.
Yeah, they're in their own movie where they've just been on like this like a meth-filled murder spree.
Yeah, it's just a horror scene, and so. Yeah, this whole scene with the punks and the weird lady, it's just like weird and out of place. It's odd.
It is very odd. And it's, I don't think no one's into it. Otto's not into what Agent Rogers is pushing, and the punks aren't into Otto now being a square, wearing like square clothes or whatever. And this whole thing goes weird. Debbie ends up licking Agent Rogers' hand.
Yeah,
and then
it gets real odd.
And then Duke gives my favorite line of the whole movie.
I wrote this line too.
Fuck this, let's do some crimes.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, you just boil it down. Yeah, I was just like, okay, that line was well delivered, but I mean, I just wonder like whoever wrote this, this is. Oof, this is getting weird. There's not much cohesion here.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, it goes back to, what's the guy's name? Parnell?
Yeah, J. Frank Parnell. He's trying to re-steal his car.
He's stealing back the Malibu from the punks. And then the punks, like, approach him. And he's like, oh, it looks exactly like my car. They're like, oh, it's our car.
Yeah.
And he's trying to use reverse psychology on them to get them to look into the trunk. And it works.
Oh, yeah. They're not bright.
It's like, oh, you're afraid to look in the trunk? I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah, they Marty McFly him there. He's like, what are you, chicken?
Yeah. and then Archie dies, right?
Yeah, so
Archie just gets nuked.
Duke goes to open it and burns his hand. He doesn't get it all the way open. And Archie takes this moment to step up and take leadership of the gang and gets himself vaporized.
Did you notice that Archie's, like, the actor was putting on this really dumb fake voice?
Yes.
It was so annoying. Every time he opened his mouth, I was like, why are you doing that? You sound like one of the dumb goons from the old cartoons.
Yeah, that's on purpose, though.
I mean, it couldn't have been on accident.
And it was a weird thing. So that actor, let me find him, because he thought he was auditioning. It's Miguel Sandoval. And he thought he was auditioning to play one of the Rodriguez brothers.
Oh, God.
So he went in there ready to do Cholo, basically, was his thought. And Alex Cox goes, can you talk like this? And he goes, yeah, I guess so. And he's like, can you jump on the hood of a car in one smooth movement? Sure. And he's like, all right, you're perfect. You're going to play Archie the punk.
Yeah, that voice was so, like...
It's a choice. I'm with you. I think it's a weird choice. But
Alex Cox made some bad decisions in this movie. Yeah. And,
I won't argue with that.
And so he gets blasted and he's dead. And, whatever. And then Duke is like, let's go get some sushi and not pay.
Yeah, that's a runner-up for best line.
Really? Really? That's where you're going with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so this is... At least they're centering around the MacGuffin now. All of the players are kind of homing in on the Malibu.
It's all coming together. The Parnell's driving the Malibu. The Rodriguez brothers. I guess we should say Otto sent the Helping Hands crew over to beat up his old manager from the grocery store. Mm-hmm. So they're this is late in the day from the same day where they started drinking, but as the sun came up.
Jeez.
And they're just shit hammered, and they see the Rodriguez brothers who are trying to get the Malibu to pull over, and they decide to get a road rage incident going with the Rodriguez boys.
And then the Rodriguez brothers, they basically are like trying to insurance scam the Helping Hands guys.
Yeah, always scammers.
It's like, are you seriously going to let them... Oh man, this is just like the weirdest dialogue. It went from being a fight to like, oh, we're gonna call our insurance company and you're gonna owe all this money. It's like, really? That stopped anyone from kicking someone's ass?
And it's really weird scene because Harry Dean Stanton, he ended up storming off the set because he wanted to use a real baseball bat in this scene and not a prop bat, and like the insurance people wouldn't let him do it. And he ends up storming off, and Alex Cox wanted to fire him. And this moment in the movie was like a turning point in the film. And it is, like you said, very weird. Everything about it is odd.
Yeah, and there's another pointless scene at the office with the Helping Hands Repo Man, and it's just...
Where Ollie fires Bud.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, okay, whatever, guys. And then it cuts to Bud and Otto driving around, and Bud is kind of wigging out, and ultimately Otto gets out of the car and walks off. He just leaves.
They're driving down Skid Row, and Bud goes on this whole thing about if there's only some way to find out how much money these people owe to make them pay. And Otto's like, Jesus Christ, Bud, they're winos. They don't have any money. And Otto is like, are you a communist? Like, kind of does his whole thing. And Otto's just like, fuck it. Gets out, takes a little walk down Skid Row, which looks even worse nowadays with the tent camps.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It hasn't changed much, but now there's tents. And he takes a walk down Skid Row and then sees the Malibu.
Yeah, and there's like hazmat suit people gathering up bodies while he's doing this wandering around montage, and he sees the Malibu and it's like swerving and driving erratically, and so he just like runs it down, or he tries, and then he vomits and he can't do it, and he chases more, and there's like this really super out of place surf guitar music being played over the top of it.
Shouts to the plugs, yeah.
And eventually, like, you can see like Parnell, he's not doing well at all. He's just totally dying. Like this radiation poisoning isn't, he's not doing well. And Otto gets in the car with him.
Yeah, he just at some point. He pulls over, or he doesn't pull over. He just stops the car in the middle of the street, but lets Otto get in.
And he's talking about how he like lobotomies, and he alludes to the fact that he has had a lobotomy, and how he was like a rocket scientist or something.
Yeah, he invented, or his friend invented the neutron bomb.
Yeah,
which destroys people, leaves buildings standing. Fits in a suitcase, it's so small, but no one knows it's there until blammo, eyes melt, skin explodes, everybody dead, so immoral, working on the thing can drive you mad.
Okay.
So this is, for most of the movie, that was the intention of what was in the trunk, was a neutron bomb.
Okay.
Which totally makes sense with the way he describes it, why when people open the trunk, it just vaporizes them. And why he's been getting radiation poisoning. So,
I mean, but that's not how a neutron bomb works. You look at it and you vaporize.
And you get vaporized, but as long as the lid's shut, it's fine. No, you're right. But that's the logic of the movie up to this point is coming into.
Yeah.
To be clear.
And basically, Parnell collapses, and Otto just dumps the body on the side of the road and drives off.
Yeah.
He just unceremoniously dumps Parnell and then drives the Malibu back to the Helping Hands lot and locks up.
He does prop it up on a bus stop.
Yeah, he gives them a totally half-hearted Weekend at Bernie's attempt.
Yeah. I just thought it's really cool though. I really like the pushing the body out of the car and taking it. He's really gone full over into the repo lifestyle.
Yeah, he has become a douchebag.
Yeah.
And there's a note that there's a party.
Mm-hmm. That's social media in 1984.
Yeah, he has to go to the party, and he shows up, and after he leaves, somebody shows up to the Helping Hands lot and steals the Malibu.
Yeah. So this is it's Bud, and this is one of those things where in the TV version it's much more clear that it's Bud already, because he shows up at this party, and it's like a tiki themed party at Miller's house, and right off the bat, Ollie gets Otto to sign over basically the contract on the Malibu to him.
Yeah.
And he scams him into basically so he can get the $20,000 instead of Otto. And then in the TV version, he talks to Bud about it and tells him that he signed the paperwork, and that's what prompts Bud to go and steal it.
Huh.
But in the theatrical cut, that scene's not there.
Yeah, so it wasn't clear what was going on. It was like, oh, someone stole the Malibu, and then later on you figure it out.
Yeah.
And this party is like weird and lame. Like people's wives are like hitting on
The
Otto.
repo wives, they're all hitting on Otto.
Yeah, and it's just like ugh. and then Bud picks up Otto, and they have this little heart to heart.
Yeah. And it's because Otto wants to know why Bud's mad at him, which also doesn't make sense except for with the conversation they had cut out.
Yeah, it's weird editing. It just doesn't work. And and then there's like a scene with the punks and how they're like sobbing and
oh yeah, because
like
Duke is asking Debbie to marry him and start a family
and settle down because that's a thing that people do, etc. And then they like decide they're just gonna go in and rob the liquor store anyway.
Well, they snort some crank and then go in.
Sure. and so everyone pulls guns. There's like 4-gun standoff or something.
Yeah, and so this is the final time that Bud and Otto nearly miss Duke and Debbie as they're robbing things. This is the first time that they're all there at the same time, and the security guard from the grocery store is there, so everybody's got guns. And let's see who Duke shoots Bud. Duke shoots Bud, who goes down. The security guard shoots Duke. The liquor store owner shoots Duke, and then Debbie shoots the liquor store owner. Is that
something like that?
Yeah.
And then so like all these people shoot each other and whatnot, and then Otto's kind of like looking around, and he looks at Debbie and he's like, "Do you think it's too late for us to get romantically involved?"
Oh, Otto.
And that's like a verbatim line.
Yep. No. Yeah, that's how I have it written down too. Never change, Automatics.
Oh my God. He is first of all, he's a dirtbag and he's tenacious.
Yeah. He's just always looking for how does Otto make it through this scene?
Yeah. He's one of those guys who are like, yeah, you never get if you don't ask.
Yeah, so Debbie turns him down, and Otto and Duke have this really funny exchange because Duke is shot through the chest and through the back, and he's laying there. He goes, "Otto, the lights are growing dim. I know a life of crime led to me to this sorry fate, and yet I blame society. Society made me what I am." Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and then like Otto just says like, "No, you're just a suburban punk just like me." Mm-hmm. And basically, yeah, just get fucked, dude.
Like, he does tell him he's gonna be all right. I was like, no, he isn't.
Yeah, and this is another scene where because you're in this store, all the food on the shelf is just labeled food, and it's just weird. I like it though.
Yeah. We see the feds. They found Parnell's body and they're just torching it.
Yeah, they just totally burn him up.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops are all like swarming at Helping Hands.
Yeah, so Otto shows up and Pletchner is like, "Don't be a hero. I'd rather be a chicken man." But Otto, he has to go in there and try and save Marlene from the feds. And it's a pretty fun scene. Like, once he distracts them, Marlene just handles business.
Yeah,
like,
he provides a distraction, and Marlene just whoops their asses.
I love the Fed. He's like, not in my face, and she drops the chair, and he goes, my face.
The lines in this movie.
Yeah, it's just so quotable.
Yeah, the hot coffee splash. I mean, that was pretty gnarly.
He says, it's coffee break coffee break time or something. Yeah, I love all that stuff. And then Marlene goes out the back door. Otto comes out the front, and the feds pick him up, and they take him off to their black site to torture him.
Yeah,
and Layla's in there like helping with the torture.
Yeah, she's like, I think he really doesn't know, and they're like, no one is innocent.
Yeah. I just love it. It took no convincing at all to they picked Layla up, and they're like, oh, we can use her. She's got no scruples.
Yeah. It turns out Layla is extremely impressionable.
Yeah.
And then Otto gets rescued by Marlene and the Rodriguez brothers.
Yeah.
Like a strange group of people returning, and they bust him out.
And they take him to the hospital to go see Bud. And they end up jacking a nurse and a doctor for their outfits.
Yeah.
And they find that Bud's room is marked with an air freshener. And Kevin is a patient in the hospital too, just randomly. Kevin's always having a hard time.
Actually, I must have been friends with the director.
Mm-hmm. And he ended up in the Circle Jerks.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he ended up joining the band after this movie.
What's he play?
Bass, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So basically, like, they're in there, and there's the air freshener on the door, and they find Bud, and he's totally out of it, and then they run away, and they're chased by a gunman who has an Uzi.
Yeah, the feds come in, and the Rodriguez brothers and the feds get into a shootout in the elevator, or not elevator shaft, the stairwell, and that leads Otto and Marlene to cheese it out of there, and then Bud decides to cheese it out of there too. And that's when we find that he's driving the Malibu, which is now like glowing green and zapping people with electricity.
Yeah, it's like totally day glow.
Mm-hmm. And the feds catch Otto and the Rodriguez brothers, and that's when they figure out that Bud has the Malibu.
Yeah, and at some point in here, as the feds are like trying to find the Malibu, the televangelist is with them.
Oh, yeah, and because he was just on the TV talking about the Malibu, too. That was the thing that clued Bud in.
Telling people to, like, call in with any tips about where it's at.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's doing that thing. It's tying in the televangelist and the consumer culture and the government, and, like, it's all one big conspiracy. Yeah. There's a mono-conspiracy.
And they're trying to make their escape from the garage, and the Malibu's all green, and the lady with the cyber hand stops them.
Yeah. And there's at some point where I think Otto is the one who pulls the pin, or maybe it's one of the Rodriguez bros who pulls the pin on the SWAT cop's tear gas canister.
Yeah, that's on their web gear or whatever.
And I don't know why this one got me so good, but the cop just goes, "Don't do that," when he pulls the pin, and Otto like jumps out the window, and it was just like. I don't know. That just tickled my funny bone. It's such a simple little line, but it's such a goofy reaction to it.
It reminded me of In the Room, like, you're my favorite customer.
It's totally like that.
It's just so dumb.
So Otto steals a car. The Rodriguez brothers get back in the Falcon, and everyone is trailing Bud back to the yard.
Yeah.
And they're all converging on this point, and the car is glowing and shooting off electricity.
It made me wonder how they did this particular effect. It looked like it had been painted with glow-in-the-dark paint.
It was painted with reflective paint. You were very close, because you can see the paint on the car.
Yeah.
So basically, they painted this reflective paint all over the car, and then they shined the green light on it.
Yeah, I was thinking it was a weird trick lighting with glow-in-the-dark paint, but I guess reflective paint. So yeah, there we go.
And it totally it works though, because then Emilio's got that green paint on. It's reflecting on his face.
Yeah,
you know? And it looks like it's radioactive glowing.
Yeah.
And he starts trying to talk Bud down. He wants them to get out of the car because the jig is up. Like, this is all falling apart.
Yeah, there's a chopper following them and everything.
And the sniper cop in the helicopter just shoots Bud first chance. And Bud has this Zapata quote where he's like, "I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees." Cool improvised line from Harry Dean Stanton that's not in the script.
Nice.
And the televangelist shows up, and he's got like other faith leaders. Like, it's a televangelist and a priest and a rabbi, like kind of like the setup for a joke.
Yeah.
And they're trying to approach the car, and his Bible bursts into flames when he gets up to it.
Yeah, and it's like zapping people with lightning as they get close to it. And I did like it when the Bible caught fire. I thought that was funny. And then what was the guy's name? The crazy burn barrel dude?
Miller
goes up to the car, and he seems to be pretty chill. Like, it doesn't zap him.
Mm-hmm. He walks up to the car, strolls all around it, and he gets in, and he beckons to Otto.
Yeah, and Otto gets in with him.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because Layla's like, "What about our relationship?"
Forget that.
And I said, "Fuck that."
Yeah.
And it's funny because not only is Otto a scumbag, but Layla is also really shitty.
Yeah, because as soon as he gets in the car, she says, "It should have been me in that car. I'm glad I tortured you." And they fly around LA in this really... It's a really surreal, weird scene. The car flies all around LA. Ollie says it's a callback line that's been repeated like twice in the movie about best damn car in the yard.
Yeah.
And, Otto's looking out the window and goes, "This is intense." And Miller's like, "The life of a Repo Man is always intense."
And then they zoom into space.
Yeah, they fly off warp speed. You get the star stretching effect.
Yeah.
Into the movie.
That was crazy.
Iggy Pop starts playing. The credits roll in reverse, which is it's an homage to some like film noir movie from the 30s, which I wrote down, but I can't find it. It's too far. But it's a movie gets homaged a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, film nerds always do that kind of thing. They think they're
I went to film school, and I'm going to homage movies no one's seen.
Yeah, only other film nerds will understand. Mm-hmm. All right, so what worked for you? What are your personal highlights?
Well, hold on. Let's talk about how the movie was supposed to end before we get to that.
All right.
Because this is not the scripted ending to this movie.
Okay.
For most of the time when they were filming this movie, the ending was supposed to be the Rodriguez brothers getting the car at the end and driving it off, and they get up to Mulholland Drive overlooking the city, open the trunk, and then you just see mushroom cloud over Los Angeles.
Oh, they set off the neutron bomb.
They set off the neutron bomb and wipe the city out.
Dang.
There was an alternate plan where the Latin American rebels who Marlene is representing get the bomb down to El Salvador and use it like, I don't know, it's like like an Iran-Contra thing. That was an alternate plot.
That's unrelated.
Unrelated, but it was always supposed to be a neutron bomb, and it was always supposed to end up going off at the end.
Okay.
Universal Studios, no way. They don't want to blow up Los Angeles at the end. And so that's how we get this sort of improvised weird ending that doesn't fit the movie at all.
Yeah, it would have been much better if everything blew up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a weird thing to say, but
it would have fit the idea of the movie, how people are dying left and right, and how this movie's just kind of, it's on a crash course the whole time.
Exactly. So, you asked me what worked for me?
Yeah.
First thing that worked for me, the punk authenticity. This is real LA hardcore of the era, and it shows. Like, the punks are real punks, and they look like real punks, and, there was a movie around that same time called The Class of 1984, where it's people playing punks, and it's very like sensationalist, and it just doesn't feel real. These feel like real kids, even if the stuff going on around them is completely unreal. The kids are real.
All right.
Los Angeles authenticity. tons of movies are filmed in LA, but this really looks like LA. Like this is the real dirty, Art Deco futurist dystopia that LA actually is. And I really like that.
Okay.
And then the commentary on like the Reagan era politics. There's the whole thing about the Sandinistas or whatever, leftist rebels in Latin America and American interventionism. There's the consumerist stuff that's going on. Like, it's very rooted in that time period and what was really going on.
Okay.
And I dig all that stuff. What worked for you?
I think really it was just weird enough to be charming. I mean, because it was off the deep end, like all over. It was this crazy sci-fi thing, dystopian future punk, and some of it didn't hit with me, obviously, from my commentary. But I think that it was actually a charming movie, and so I like that. And I think you're right with regards to the sets. I think I like how they used LA, and it looked really good. The places that they chose to film, and I mean, I think those are probably my highlights.
Okay. Well, what didn't work for you? I think you've been alluding to a few things.
The story was just so slow. It didn't actually have a lot of continuity. There was a ton of really throwaway scenes that just could have, like, half the Repo scenes could have been thrown away. The fact that they were Repo Men was actually not even relevant to the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
And so they spent a lot of time establishing like what it's like to be a Repo Man, and it didn't actually even matter. And I think that some of the lines were fun. They were cheesy funny, and I was okay with that. But at a certain point, there was just too many bad one-liners that it actually would take you out of the scene. You're like, it's like, okay, this is fun, this is going on, and then somebody says something stupid. You're like, what? Okay, that was dumb. Like, it's just like it ceased being surreal, and it actually just became jarring how bad it was at those points.
Okay.
So how about you? What didn't work?
Okay. So first up, the flying car ending.
Yeah, that was jacked.
So I watched it 3 times in preparation for this. And one time being the TV edit just for fun. And every time the ending diminishes a little bit for me. Like every time I wish we got that mushroom cloud a little bit more.
Okay.
So that just doesn't work. I don't think that ending thematically works with the movie at all. Number 2, casual homophobia. I know it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
But man, I hate to hear the homophobic slurs, and I hate when characters I like use them, especially. And it's like, oh, I wish this wasn't in here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So yeah, flip that. And and finally, there's some really bad continuity errors in the editing.
Oh yeah.
Where clearly, just based on the clothes that they're wearing and time of day and things like that, they take scenes that were intended for earlier in the movie and put them at the end. And like there's supposed to be this progression of Otto's outfit as he gets a sport coat, but he's still wearing like a t-shirt and chinos.
Yeah.
And then it gradually becomes a suit. But then sometimes there's scenes later in the movie where he's still wearing the t-shirt, and it's just like, no, this doesn't work. It's you shot a ton of stuff, and then like, how do I make a movie out of this?
Yeah, for sure.
And so that just kind of
it did feel like a bin full of parts.
And they made it into a relatively linear story, but I think I've been waiting to see how you would react to it, because I have a more get along in me where like I'll go for this ride and see where it takes us than you do. I know you're harder on these kind of things.
Yeah. So as far as our ratings go, we should give our ratings, and then I'll give you the wider reception. So how many stars do you give this?
You're gonna think this is too high, but I'm going 4.
Are you serious?
I am. This is
not that good.
It's in the Criterion collection, so I feel other people agree with me. the charm of this movie overrides its flaws to the point.
This is as good as Dune or better than Dune. Like, this is not a 4-star movie. The other things that you've given 4 stars to, 4 is, until last episode, was your highest rating ever, and you're gonna give this shit Fiesta a 4? How dare you? But if you have to give it a 4, I mean, I guess you can sully your record with that. I wouldn't own that.
Okay, fine. You make a strong case. I have a hard time justifying the 4. So it's a bit, me giving this a 4 is like when I gave Lost Boys a 4 and then retroactively bumped it down to a 3.
Yeah.
You know,
it's because you want to love it.
And I did love it, man. Like, I've watched it 3 times and I haven't complained to myself.
How many times did Lisa have to watch it with you?
We'll say 2, because so she watched it all the way through with me once, and then on the 2 subsequent viewings, she was in and out.
Oh, okay.
So it adds up to about 2 full viewings.
Okay.
And she really liked it. She actually said it was better than Lost Boys.
Wow, that's crazy.
But you know,
Lost Boys would have been a 4-star movie, maybe a 5-star movie if it had cut the Corys.
You poor Corys. You're right. You're right. I think we'll go 3+. How about that?
Okay, you're going to give it cultural significance for being a cult classic that is well celebrated. Okay, so I was on the fence between a 2 and a 3. I was really trying to think about because it's just, this isn't something you would sit down and watch if you didn't put yourself in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to watch a quirky 80s movie and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be so 80s. It's going to be off the wall. It's like, it's like sitting down and watching The Room or Clerks or any of those kind of movies where you give your mind permission to see something that's moderately bad.
I think this is more Clerks than Room.
No, yeah, you're right. And Clerks is better than this.
Yeah. Yes. Clerks is definitely a 4-star movie.
And so I was looking at a lot of the flaws and thinking, this is just hella 2. But actually kind of talking through this with you, and I think maybe a 2 is too much. It is hammering it too hard, because I do think Emilio Estevez was great in this. I think that the scenes with light were great. I really liked some of the punk scenes, even though they were cheesy as shit. So I'm willing to go at a 3. I think I can settle at a 3 because it did and it had the really good soundtrack. Yeah. So I think a 3. I'm not giving it a plus because I just don't think it's that significant. It didn't have a big reach, but I am actually in the minority with regard to my my criticism, because IMDb gives it a 6.9, which I guess would be a 3.45. And then Rotten Tomatoes, this is bullshit, because Rotten Tomatoes, the only people reviewing a movie from 1984 are the celebrants, right? So it's got a 98%. So that's not real. Yeah, that's dumb.
All Rotten Tomatoes can do is aggregate reviews that exist.
Yeah, and so Metacritic, which is also an aggregator, gave it an 82%. But then again, since these are relatively modern, and they're just looking at people who reviewed it because it's a cult classic. Yeah. So they're these are gonna be overwhelmingly positive. All right. So I guess we got our ratings. So that is a wrap on Repo Man. Let's take a little break and then come back in with our closing segment.
All right, welcome back, divers. It is time for our final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
Well, I'm into things I've always been into, but I've made a couple of recent discoveries. First of all, everybody knows I like to watch YouTube. I've recommended YouTube channels before. So I figured I would reprise that and recommend a couple of channels that I have recently gotten into. I won't belabor it too much, but if you are into guitar-related content and some metal news and commentary, there is a guy whose channel is called Stay Metal Ray, and
Okay.
Stay Metal Ray is a really cool, chill, like positive guy. He's an Army vet. He's got really cool tattoos, including some like rad blackout stuff. And it's just a really good channel for guitar related stuff and metal news. He's got about 45,000 subscribers, which is pretty respectable, but it's not in the neighborhood of like a mega star or whatever. So if you are interested in a guitar related channel, go over and check out Stay Metal Ray. The other one is actually kind of an interesting anomaly. There's this guy named Dr. Jackson Crawford, and his YouTube channel is simply called Jackson Crawford. And he has a PhD in Scandinavian studies and a master's in linguistics. He's a real academic expert, and he doesn't really have a political agenda or anything. He's just runs a straight up educational channel about Norse history, language, culture, the sagas, etc. It's really, really cool. If anything, he wants to use real information from period sources to combat the usurping of Norse culture by like racialists and racists that want to try to make it something it isn't or never was. And so he is a linguist, and he actually translates original manuscripts into modern language and understands, like modern Icelandic versus ancient Icelandic, which is where most of the well recorded stuff is from.
The surviving sagas.
Yeah, are mostly Icelandic. So he speaks all of that, and he understands the difference between the antiquated Icelandic, modern Icelandic, and Old Norse and all that. And he goes into detail about the interesting use of how there are certain letters or concepts that aren't present in the Latin alphabet that some of this stuff is recorded in. And so they actually include some Futhark runes in the writing. And so it's really cool, like how he analyzes the original texts and all of that. So he's got a book called The Wanderer's Havamal that is I've begun listening to it, and I want to get it in the physical format as well, because you can then look at side by side the original writing versus the translations and stuff. And he does these really cool readings on his YouTube channel where he reads the old sagas in the original dialect with the proper pronunciations.
That's cool.
And then he says it in English. And he's like this interesting, like, kind of cowboy guy who lives in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado.
Yeah, so I pulled both of these guys up on Instagram while you were talking about them. And he looks like what, in my mind, most paleontologists look like.
Yeah.
He looks, and there was actually, he had shots on his Instagram of actually digging dinosaur bones. So, he basically, he's sort of a paleontologist, archaeologist.
Yeah, this dude is really fascinating. His content is right up my alley.
And that reference there, what do you call it? The Wanderer's
Havamal.
So the Havamal is the laws of Odin, right? Like it's ancient text that is supposed to be like the rules to live by that Odin laid down.
Yeah, it's a poem or saga, and it's written from the point of view of Odin, as though Odin is the author. And so it talks about all kinds of different things, like pragmatic things, ways to woo women. Like it's crazy how in depth it is, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's one quote I always loved, and forgive me, Odin, for not quite getting it right, but it said it's something about a man that has a house and livestock, even if it's just a hut and a goat, is rich. It's like it's a different time, like, and I appreciate that. It's like about appreciating what you got.
Yeah, it's a really cool text, and it's got a lot of good wisdom in it. So that's pretty much what I've been into, consuming some media. How about you? What are you into right now?
I don't know how we so often do this, but you and I, even though we will end up recommending different things, we'll both pick audiobooks at the same time, or we'll both pick YouTubers, or like somehow we're on a similar like wavelength.
Because we do not communicate about show notes.
No,
we
not at all.
Pick a topic and then we just go with it.
So I also picked 2 YouTubers.
Oh my God. That's why you were smiling when I said I like YouTube.
Yeah. And so something that I watch a ton of on YouTube is film essays, because, you know, I wouldn't at this point say that, you know, that we're film critics, but you know, like we're
definitely enthusiasts.
We're enthusiasts, and we're spending a lot of time analyzing film. And I like to kind of go to people, you know, with degrees in these subjects and get better at analyzing films. And so 2 people that I really like their videos a lot are, number 1 is Patrick H. Willems. He's a filmmaker from New York, and he does these really great kind of like, they're humorous like film essays, and he has sort of like a narrative plot that links his essays together. But the essays stand alone, and you don't have to follow the plot about him and his parents, and he goes to prison and breaks out. Like, he fits his short films in around the film essays.
Interesting.
And, you know, I've never watched them in order, so I don't really know the narrative. That doesn't really bother me. But I think he's one of these people where I'm a have your cake and eat it too sort of person, where I like popcorn cinema and cult cinema and all of this stuff, but I also am serious about film and art cinema also. And so I like to have both, and not be anti-intellectual, but not be trapped by intellectuualism either.
But also give Repo Man a 4.
I went to a 3+. I concede. So I would just like a couple of his film or videos that jumped out at me. I think people would get something out of would be The Trouble with Trilogies, The Limitations of the MCU, and What Do We Want from a Star Wars Movie. Like, I thought those were all really good ones, and I think he makes good points in them.
That's cool.
And then on another end of the spectrum is Accented Cinema, which is this guy, you know, my Mandarin's not going to be good, so Yongzong, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's a Chinese-Canadian YouTuber and video essayist, and he kind of focuses on Asian and world cinema, or at least cinema from an Asian perspective. And so a few videos of his that I really liked were The Birth of Gun Fu, East versus West, Differences in Story Philosophy, and Why China Cared About Kung Fu Panda. And I think he gives that perspective of an Asian person from Asia as opposed to an Asian American perspective.
Yeah.
But he is an Asian person from Asia that is living in North America. So he straddles that line between Asian and Asian American, and
he's Canadian, so there you go.
North American. It's semantics.
Yeah.
But he has a really cool perspective, and he knows a lot about film, and his is less humorous, although there are jokes. And it's more just about film technique and, you know, the messaging and the symbolism, yada, yada, yada. And so these are 2 guys that do really good film essays, and I watch a ton of their videos.
That's cool.
So I recommend checking that out.
You should shout these channels out on our socials so people can go check
that's
them
a good
out.
idea. Yeah, I might do that. I will do that.
Yeah, because Nick is our socials guy.
Yeah. So you want to give them the call to action?
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, including YouTube, and rate us generously. A 5-star review costs you nothing or thumbs up, but means everything to us.
Yes, you can find us on all social media platforms across the metaverse as Deep Dive the Meta. At this point, we both prefer Instagram to everything else, but we're also on Pinterest, which no one likes.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.